And that's the way to get people engaged in learning. Oh, you're multi-talented.
I know, there we go. I always have backup plans, and this will be the backup plan.
Okay.
Do you have an opinion on what you believe? I mean, we talked about the value of like going to college and opening up the world to students, and I think we would both advocate for like a liberal arts integrative, curriculum. But I hear so many people say employers want work experience. They want to see that you've done a job practically, and education is important. And that's kind of like a foundation. But even like talking to my dad, he said a bachelor's degree was like a step into the door of almost every position when he came out of college. But now employers want more education, more physical work experience. So what do you think, how do you balance that kind of connotation of employers want education and work experience? So there sometimes seems to be like more value placed on work experience than education.
Yeah, so there's a lot of professional associations based in Washington, D.C., usually one DuPont Circle. AAC&U is the collection of institutions committed to the liberal arts, and their website, if you just go to aacnu.org, has a lot of research and reports on why the liberal arts is the best preparation for any career. And contrary to what you said, although I don't doubt that people wish that graduates were coming in with work experience, they would much rather have people who could think clearly and think critically and write well. And many college grads who only have the practical side or who have been narrowly professionally prepared don't have the broader skills to do well in a career. So that organization, for one, has lots of studies from the corporate world that would say basically, first and foremost, companies are looking to hire people who are professional, articulate, thoughtful, can write well. So maybe in the future, things like your study abroad or combined like your internship experiences, more students will go out having done something that's an embedded internship in their field of study. But I think, there's always an ideal. Ideally, I think it would be a combination of the breadth and the hands-on real work experience that shows you, even like student teaching, how many people have gone through student teaching and said, I really don't think I should be a teacher. But that's because they did that when they were in college. And then they make a decision that's smarter, but if you go through a 4-year curriculum and haven't tried it, you could get done, have spent 4 years, and then decide this is not a good idea. So ideally, I think more people, obviously, if you know the UCLA survey, like the freshman and senior survey, out of the Higher Ed Research Institute, I mean, the percentages of people who basically think higher ed is for a job, getting preparation for a job is like now off the charts, and developing a meaningful philosophy of life is like falling off the bottom.
Right.
So it's like, So students and their families, I think more and more are thinking very pragmatically. Saying, I'm going to school to get a job.
And I wonder it's because access is easier. There's more access to more people can go to college. And before, the populations who I would have to keep working, who didn't have the privilege of, say, of getting education, now they have that privilege of getting education. And they view it as being a better job for their family, as opposed to college used to be for those who had the time, who had the money to increase their brain. And so maybe that's why the stats are being higher and higher of people who respond like that.
This is also very useful for us because we are actually on the same debate team for in a couple weeks in our class, debating for a liberal arts approach to a curriculum.
Really? Well, go on this website.
That's going to be a treasure
They're very thoughtful. This is like the major institutions nationally that are trying to make the case, and it's not an artificial case. It's what kind of, really, this is such a long conversation, but what's the purpose of education? And I would have to say, even just listening to what you just said, we are so privileged. I mean, to sit here and to think about this when we're in graduate programs, and we have money, and we don't worry about, you'll get a job. You don't really worry, will I get a job? But when you look at the divide, I'm not worried for you. When you look at the gulf between the haves and the have-nots, and the gap that's widened, people literally cannot pay their bills. They don't have health insurance. You know, if that's your world, you have to get a job. I mean, last night on the news, I was watching a 27-year-old in the oil industry in Texas who has a daughter, a little tiny daughter, who's been laid off because of the gas prices have dropped. And Texas is like suffering. And he doesn't know where he'll get a job. I mean, if that's your boat, all you care about is getting a job. And if an education can help you get a job, then get an education to get a job. It's not, they're not even thinking at the level of, I really wish I knew more about music, or I really wish I knew astronomy. I wish I knew British literature. They just want a job. So, you know, I feel like in some ways we're up here in the stratosphere critiquing the whole field when we have the privilege to do that. And what, 4/5 of the U.S. population doesn't have the privilege of doing that. They just need to survive and care for their families. But it does go back to what's the purpose of education. And you've had an intro to higher ed class, you know, where historically people who already had privilege were prepared to be the future thoughtful leadership and create a society where people who were educated knew, you know, there wasn't any expectation that other people would rise. It was just a matter of educating the already elite and the already privileged. Now, you look at something like the GI Bill. To me, it's very powerful to see how one person, first generation college students, to change somebody's life and to change that family unit and to change the kids of that family, because then you say, there's a bigger world. It's very exciting. And I would wish that for more people.
Do you have any interest time? Maybe you have any more questions you want to ask? I have one that I want to ask.
Yeah, well, I kind of just want to hear, like, maybe your elevator pitch, 2-minute, like, answer to what do you think the value of a college degree is. And you touched on it very briefly at the beginning, but I'd love to just hear, like, your thoughts, concise, kind of just elevator pitch, sort of.
Well, there are a lot of things I could say to that. You know, Chip Anderson used to, do you know that name? Who did the strengths work here? He wanted to write a book. He died of cancer when I first came, on the concept of aliveness. And he really believed that because of the fall, everything that human beings were designed to enjoy and be had gotten lost. And he described it in terms of spiritual aliveness, relational aliveness, intellectual aliveness, kind of internal aliveness, that you just, like human flourishing. So when I think of the value of education, I just think there's so many people that are like living like a quarter of what life could be, or a fifth of what life could be, because they wake up in the morning, they go to their jobs, they come home, maybe eat dinner, watch TV. How much fun it is to be like in a good book discussion, or to watch you guys debate something like that you will be debating, and just have your mind alive. I mean, what does it mean to be fully human? I don't think that most people by themselves get to that without being challenged and stretched and stimulated, and have role models and say, you know, look at any number of faculty that love their discipline and say, oh, life could be more, because when I'm hiking up in the San Gabriels, I know what the plants are like, and I'm interested in the animal life, and I'm interested in the cloud patterns. You know, what does it mean to be fully human? And I don't think you become fully human watching TV at night.
Unless it's Nat Geo.
I asked an applicant for our PhD program yesterday, you know, we want to admit students that are intellectually curious. So tell me what would give me any confidence that you're intellectually curious. And she said, well, I listen to NPR on my way to work in the morning.
Yeah.
I thought that's interesting that that's the first thing she said.
Yeah.
Not a bad
Right.
response.
Right, it's hard to argue. Well, maybe, okay, so one question I want to know.
So you give me your speech when we're done.
Okay,
Mhm.
okay. 20 years from now,
Mhm.
in connection back to Ivory Tower and tuitions going up,
Mhm.
we know cities are raising minimum wage, and the influence of minimum wage means everything else essentially
Mhm.
costs more, goods cost more.
Mhm.
So it's hard to imagine a future where costs are going down, but they could be. But with costs going up and just the idea of college being valuable or not being debated,
Mhm.
in 20 years from now, what would be your prediction on the status of higher education? Is it gonna, in culture, in American culture,
Mhm.
is it gonna be everyone needs to do it, or is it gonna be whatever you choose?
I don't think it's going away. There would be people that say bricks and mortar
Right.
universities
Yeah.
are going away. I think, let me just say, one dimension of higher ed that intrigues me is the idea of kind of like an hourglass where if the system worked right, you've got essentially the world coming, and even for 4 years, let alone 6 years or 10 years or whatever, you have the chance to shape the future and then send these people out into all these different spheres of influence. So I think when you look at that circle and you say every dimension of it's not quite working, you've got a lot of smart people working on every degree of those 360 degrees saying this isn't working, how can we make it better? This isn't working, how can we make it better? And there's clearly ways to make higher ed more affordable through technology. So I think this is common knowledge, the institutions that have reputation and have endowments, there's going to be a point where in the spectrum of U.S. higher ed, to a certain point, those schools will do fine and thrive. And you might say things like the nondescript state universities and places that are serving a regional clientele will survive because people want to go there and take pride in their local institution. That's the beauty of the mosaic. The schools that I think will struggle, and even are struggling now, is what they used to call the invisible colleges. They have no distinctive and really not particularly quality faculty and nothing that makes them worth the money people are spending. But I do think that we will see a lot of smart people who believe in higher ed focus on fixing certain problems and using technology more adroitly to make the learning process bigger than the classroom and help people get excited about learning and prepared for jobs in ways that blend the best of technology with the best of, to some extent. Like our students do their doctoral work 11 months of the year from where they're working, but they come together for 2 weeks in January and 2 weeks in July. They love it, and they like being connected. They feel very connected, even though they're only connected 1 month of the year. But they know each other, they support each other, they get jobs for each other, they do projects together. That doesn't take a 12-month investment, but it does take face-to-face time. So they feel like I'm in this with somebody else, and I can Skype that person or call that person, or it's a matter of building bridges and developing trust and helping the social glue to work to make the learning process more fun than I think just distance with no faces can ever do.
Sure.
So you'll obviously have a spectrum from ideal to dysfunctional in terms of the higher ed, and the dysfunctional will fall off the map. People won't pay for it.
Yeah.
And I think you're seeing that in some areas of technology that were assumed to be boom areas. People aren't paying for it or aren't doing it because it doesn't work.
Yeah. So the next 20 years, technology and the consumer are going to be heavily influential in higher ed.
Yeah, I think definitely higher ed will not go away, and much of higher ed won't change all that much except to use technology smarter. I think gray hair. The question mark for me is the generation that's coming up, which is, I think, by and large, more entitled, feels more entitled than they deserve to be. What will they pay for, and what are they looking for, and what will their families support? That's an unknown.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's all the questions
What do
I
you
have.
think, elevator speech? Are you on the same side?
I think so.
Yeah.
I mean, of the
Oh,
debate.
the debate, yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, same side.
I think, yeah, also lucky because George Fox is a liberal arts.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so is Westmont, so
Mhm.
if anything, we can just speak to the credibility of both of our educations
Mhm.
too.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I'm a firm believer.
Yeah. I like to use the analogy, growing up, I always struggled with fixing things.
Mhm.
Like that concept of fixing things, whatever it was, whether it be something in your house, your room, your car, your backpack. As a kid, all the things you encounter that broke.
Mhm.
And I'm like, I don't know how to do these things.
Mhm.
And I always marveled at the people who could fix those things, the fixers.
Yeah.
And what I learned, wanting to be that, and what I learned how those fixers got to be the fixers, is it's not that they learned one track of fixing things. It's that they had multiple experiences in trying to fix things. And through those experiences, when they encountered something they had never encountered before, they had a base understanding of how to fix things that they applied to that situation they never encountered before,
Right.
and were able to fix that. I think that's what a liberal arts education does. It creates some sort of base that is applicable to many, many areas that, because like learning one track, learning how to fix cars, learning how to fix houses, those are great tools, but they don't, focusing on one doesn't allow you to understand the others. But creating that base of understanding how to fix, that allows you to be generally skilled in all areas. I think that's the liberal arts education need.
Yeah, I would agree. I think I would honestly say my communication skills, my writing skills, critical reasoning skills would be far subpar if I had not gone to a liberal arts institution. I had professors who really pushed me, and not only because I was a comm studies major, so that was like embedded deep within my program, but there was always a push to do better that I think was really powerful. It wasn't like once your writing was to a T, my professor would be like, this is great, you can just write every paper this way. There was always different things to improve on. And so many things in one class connected with things in another class, and I think that critical thinking skill has applied to how I view even like my job now. I see connections that a lot of people don't see immediately just because that's how my brain has been trained to think. Yeah, I loved that I got to take courses way outside the realm of my study. I took New Testament Greek for a semester. I got to study abroad in a program that was not directly related to my major, but I felt it was extremely useful. I took physics classes and psychology courses, and those were just enjoyable for the most part. I learned that a general education is far more than just a list of classes you check off before you graduate.
Yeah.
And that was, I think, really powerful. But yeah, the idea of gaining fundamental skills that are meaningful and the idea of a holistic education, I think, will lay the groundwork for most of our debates. So, feeling pretty confident we'll do well.
Robert Wright, R-E-I-C-H, was the Secretary of Labor. He has done some really powerful presentations on why higher ed needs to be preparing an educated citizenry for the collective good of society, rather than just an individualistic job preparation, which is, you know, the big fork in the road. How does higher ed shape culture, and how should higher ed be shaping culture? Because if we don't shape culture through higher ed, I think we're in real trouble. Because what else would raise the sights and standards? Yeah, so I think the liberal arts do convict students of the need to be investing their lives in the common good, that kind of thing, in a way that a purely pragmatic, job-centered, egocentric, career-oriented education doesn't. But then, other than maybe the military, I mean, I think the military does prepare people with a commitment to the larger good and to respect for systems and authority. But other than those two, maybe the church, I don't know. I think higher ed's our best bet.
Well, thanks so much.
Yeah, thanks for chatting.
Really appreciate it.
Yeah,
It
good.
was
Now
really, yeah.
you can go into the weekend.
Yeah.
Yeah, right?
And it's a beautiful day and